All right, here we go. Bonus episode of the PD's Picks podcast. I teased this a little bit earlier in the week. Had some extra time today. Figured what the hell I'd do it now since the showcase was yesterday, fresh in my mind. We'll get to talk a little MDHL and some of the top kids out of that league that were at the showcase yesterday. Let me I don't really have a whole lot planned for this. I have notes on everybody and everything that I'll get to. But as far as like structure of the episode and whatnot, I didn't really have a plan. So we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here. But um overall, I think I was the showcase as a whole, a lot of times in these environments, it ends up being kind of sloppy play, low scoring, takes guys a little while to get their feet under them. Ends up being like a 2-1 or a 1-0 type score for for a good chunk of the game. Uh, and then as the game wears on, guys kind of find a rhythm and you see it pick up a little bit. Last night's showcase was kind of the opposite for me. I felt like started really strong. There was really great action early on. First period, period and a half. Both teams really good scoring opportunities. You saw a lot of good hockey plays in environments like this. Where it's a mismatch of teams, a hodgepodge, kids who haven't really played together that much at all, or even in the fall in the fall league. When you get players like that who haven't played together, there obviously hasn't been any practices or opportunity to kind of get in a rhythm. It can be kind of sloppy hockey a little bit. You don't see line rushes. You don't see real clean regroups. I actually thought you saw a good amount of that last night at the showcase, especially early on. Like I said, there was some decent chemistry, and coaches running the benches did a nice job too. With you had like a pair of Brighton kids on a line, you had a pair of CC kids on a line, and when you have at least some of that baseline familiarity, you can get in a bit of a groove and kind of execute on some of those give and goes, the zone entries, the hockey plays you like to see. Um, so I've got notes on goals. There was one that I missed, but ultimately, I think it was a 4-3 final. I think Team White ended up winning. Let me see. Is that right? Yeah, Team White won 4-3. So again, like I said, pretty competitive. I want to say Green was up 3-2. White ended up coming back and winning it, and then Green pulled their goalie late to try and even things up. That's all semantics. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things when we're talking the showcase and obviously putting the top players in the league on display. The score of the game doesn't necessarily mean all that much, but you do want it to be competitive and a good back and forth, and I think that's exactly what it was. First period, like I said, it started out real strong, good back and forth, good hockey plays. As the game wore on and we got late into the third period, it kind of tapered off to me a little bit, and maybe that's midweek, late night. Boys aren't really, it's just kind of the extenuating circumstances around the game maybe started to wear as the night went on. But ultimately, like I said, a really good showing. A lot of top players that caught my attention. We'll talk about a couple of them here too. But that at least kind of sets the scene, anyways, as far as what the showcase was. And like I said, ultimately super competitive, pretty packed. There was a good amount of scouts and evaluators upstairs. Obviously, parents and whatnot in the stands, and it was kind of funny. I think it had to have been CC parents, but they were kind of joking the parent group with, having CC kids on both sides debating, are we going to sit on the white side or the green side? And obviously well, we can't sit together because we're opponents today, and just kind of getting a good laugh out of that. But I also saw a couple high school coaches kind of out watching, supporting their guys, which is good to see too. You like to see that where you get the high school coaches who aren't involved in the MDHL but coming out and watching their kids perform, and just kind of another set of eyes to kind of provide feedback for that kid at the showcase. So it's always good to see that too. Uh, Let me see. A couple big takeaways. There was 9 CC kids, 7 Brighton kids. A pretty good mix after that, though. Gabriel Richard, Allen Park, Howell. Bay Reps, Chelsea, Cranbrook, Northville. There's a pretty good spread. TC West, pretty good Mattawan, pretty good representation throughout the state, I thought. And a couple kids I knew about and obviously knew what they're capable of, right? And I was texting my one buddy as I was there was it's one thing to be a standout in a high school game or to be a standout in the MDHL league play. It's another thing to be a standout at the MDHL showcase where it's the best of the best in that league. And to really, there was you kind of broke it into three tiers where there was a couple kids who might have been a little over their skis or the game was just a little bit too fast for them. Another good group where they could get up and down the ice, they could hang, but they weren't necessarily dominating. And then obviously another chunk there where some guys, even at that level where the game is as fast as it got, were able to control the play, able to make top end plays, able to execute and generate scoring opportunities or negate scoring opportunities too. Um, so it was that's kind of what it broke down to me, anyways, as far as those three tiers of players at the showcase. So I do want to, how do I want to do this? I mean, I got names, I got notes. I'll just start at the top of my sheet here. I got D, I got forwards, I got goalies. I talked about Graham Newton on an earlier episode this week when I was doing the SEC breakdown. And obviously, if you guys missed any of that, feel free to rewind, go back, check out a couple old episodes as we were doing the conference previews leading up to the high school hockey season. Talked extensively about Graham Newton in the SEC preview. He looked every bit the part. Again, I mentioned talent, the competition level goes up a notch at a showcase like this. And Newton to me was potentially the best defenseman in that group. I would characterize him. I don't know that I would have done this before, but after kind of seeing him last night, you hear the expression a lot, a duck on water. Like he's never under duress. He never looks like he's stressed or like under pressure and like, oh God, I don't know what to do with the puck. Like he's always cool, calm, collected. And maybe not necessarily in the ear between the ears, right? Maybe he's like, oh yeah, no, I'm scrambling it, but like he doesn't show it. And you like to see that out of young defensemen. So that skill set, his ability with the puck, with and without the puck, that really stood out to me last night. One of his teammates last night, Nolan Burner, was another one I liked. He had a really good footwork, maybe some of the best footwork amongst defensemen on the ice last night. And footwork is a tough one. Like if you have it, it really sets you apart. If you don't have it, it's really tough to overcome that and develop that and improve that this late in the process. I'm not saying you can't, but when you have it like Burner does, it certainly sets you apart from the rest. To go on the other side of things, so Team Green, Roman Sicko, obviously he's one I've talked about on the podcast before as well. He stood out to me at the league tryouts. What was it? 2 months ago now. And obviously has shown well, performed well in the league all fall and then showed well again last night. He was very much in rhythm, like constantly without the puck. He's supporting his defensive partner. He's moving in rhythm. He's behind him, able to get that D pass without breaking stride, without fumbling over a puck, without overhandling or anything like that. Just very much in rhythm constantly with the play, which you love to see that. Alex Kasapis was another one, Northville kid. Northville is a program really on my radar. I think Ryan Ossenmacher is doing a fantastic job with them. I believe he's entering year 2. Is that right? But Northville is a team with a lot of good prospects, a lot of good kids coming in, Kasapis being one of them, that I think is really going to help get that program heading in a really dangerous direction for the rest of the state. Kasapis, big, long, lanky defenseman, real big reach. Like he's going to be very tough for opposing forwards to try and get around and try to solve as they go on the attack against a team like Northville. Kasapis, again, just a lot of intangibles that you like to see in defensemen and prospects, potential for the next level. Um, Jack Mickus kind of fits that mold too. West Side kid, Grand Rapids Christian. Big, long, lanky, real good skater for their size too. Him and Kasapis both. Um, Good skaters when you're that long and lanky. Sometimes I use the expression a newborn giraffe. Sometimes they're just kind of fumbling all over themselves on the ice. Not the case with either one of those two guys. Very fluid feet and good movement there. So Mikus, I would say this though was a little maybe a little more volatile last night. Had some really good moments and then some really like oh shoot moments. Um, I want to say there was one. I thought he got a little out of position. Guy was able to get inside, get to the net, and ultimately ended up scoring a goal. But he was also doing some other things, like I said, with utilizing his size, negating some odd man rushes, that long reach, using it well in the corners and puck battles and things like that. So yeah, a lot to like there out of not just Mikus but Kasapis as well. Um, Forwards, I mentioned there was a boatload of CC kids there. For me, it's like, all right, how do I whittle this down? What do I kind of key in on? And there was one forward to me that kind of separated himself from the pack. you know, Nothing broke, so that's good. um, there was one forward to me, like I said, that kind of separated himself from that CC pack. And it was Andrew Atala. I really like him a lot. He just does a lot of things that check a lot of boxes for me personally. Jackson Walsh is an exceptional talent. I think he does some things that very few, if any, on the ice last night are capable of doing and doing it at a high level and a top speed. Brooks Rogowski is another one. Big, solid kid. Um, who again has some puck skills, has some ability that not everybody on the ice is capable of doing. But to me, Atala did like everything he did just seemed right. I don't know. He fits the mold. He looks like a hockey player, carries himself well. Um, moving pucks with and without the puck, he's making plays, constantly in good position. He's got the puck skills. He's got the awareness. Obviously well coached and understands the game. Right, knows where to be, when to be. Also has that explosiveness. Has a good shot. Like again, he just a lot of the check boxes he hit for me, if not all of them. And to me, not that a guy like Walsh or Rogowski doesn't, but Atala just seemed a little more polished to me. I think is the best way I could put it. Nonetheless, a ton of weapons there at CC. Coach Cal will certainly have his pick of the litter there to work with. But Atala last night, again, it's kind of a muddled mess there with some of those CC forwards, but last night was kind of the separation moment for me, anyways, where Atala kind of separated himself from the pack. One forward that really jumped out to me, and he's another one that I talked about earlier this week with the SCHL preview, and I actually texted one of the league coaches. I said, "You boys are in trouble," because Braden Lewis is the real deal. He was very impressive, I thought, last night, and should be. This time next year, we could be looking at him as being one of, if not the top prospect in high school hockey. For as much as I've raved about Graham Newton being one of the top defensemen, despite playing for maybe one of those mid-major type teams, Braden Lewis is a carbon copy, just a year younger. Braden Lewis can be a very dominant player at this level, and plays with. So when you start trying to project out and looking at junior caliber type players, you look for can they play at that speed, right? Can they play at a high speed when the game picks up? Braden Lewis very much can, and there were times last night where I thought he pushed the pace, and like I said, I keep talking about that showcase last night being the best of the best, and some kind of fell off and were spinning tops and had a tough time keeping up. like I said, Braden Lewis very much not only kept up with the pace, but carried the pace at times, attacking the offensive zone, hitting the blue line full speed on a line rush and making it difficult on defenders. And then without the puck, blazing his way to the net front and really doing a real nice job with net drives and making his presence known. That's a guy who, according to my notes, anyways, I didn't have an official box score or anything like that. Braden Lewis never recorded a point last night, yet very much had a big impact on the game and generated some really good looks. And that's what I like about showcases and things like this. Like, it's not about just getting on the score sheet. It's not about producing and scoring a goal or whatever it may be. It's about how well you play and the other things you do positionally and effort plays and some of that stuff that'll really stand out and separate you from the bunch. And Braden Lewis to me was all of that. So he's a kid who I came away liking even more than I already did. So hats off to him and really excited when you've got that much talent and you're going to play Mattawan schedule and you're going to play in that pocket of the state. Excuse me, that pocket of the state. Be very curious to see kind of how he does this year. And then, in the spring, looking at consideration for Team Michigan and those things and beyond. I think he's a great candidate for stuff like that. So he keeps doing all the right things. I think he could be playing hockey for a little while. I'll put it that way. Let's see here. A couple more. Cam Duffney, Lane Pettit. Obviously, I've talked about them a bunch. I don't really need to. I think the majority of the state already knows about that tandem, especially coming back from last season. They were playing on a line together, which obviously boded well for both of them. Bode. I think it's bode well for both of them. Linked up, I think, for the first two goals of the game. Is that right? What do I have in my notes? First and third goals of the game for Team Green. Duffney. No, who was it? Pettit kind of forced a turnover there, I think, on the first goal. Good effort play. Very on brand, I think, for what that line will be for Coach Cavisto there in Brighton. Pettit doing a lot of the dirty work, a lot of the grit, sandpaper, scrappy work around the boards, getting a puck, finding Duffney, and then Duffney puts it in the net. So a very on brand goal there for the Brighton pair. Duffney is a guy who, his offensive skills are dynamic. He does things that I don't know that anybody else on the ice is capable of doing when it comes to, offensively and finding open areas, getting to an open space and someone finds him and gets him a puck. And then he's able to be a goal scorer and score goals. Team Green pulled their goalie late in the game, and Duffney was able to. He did it against Stevenson last year last winter in the state playoffs with the game on the line. Like, he has a knack of scoring goals and scoring big goals. Team Green pulled their goalie last night, and Duffney had not one but two grade A looks. I think it was Jacob Van Zweden and net who ended up making a couple nice saves on that. One of them might have went high and wide. Duffney, I think, was probably trying to go for a top corner there and might have missed. I'm spacing on how that all went down, but some of that stuff to me sets him so far apart from others. Just the goal scoring ability, I will say, and I don't think this is any secret to him or anything like that. But like, defensively, I think there's some improvements to be made, or the effort type plays where board battles and some of the scrappy stuff that you want to see, or that definitely translates well to the next level. Duffney being a goal scorer for sure at the high school level. That's one of those challenges, I think, for a lot of those goal scorers at this level when they're making the jump to junior hockey, because you get to juniors and everybody's a goal scorer. Everybody's capable of scoring goals. So what are you going to do to kind of set yourself apart? And a lot of that tends to come down to, the shot blocking, the board battles, the effort on a back check, and some of that stuff that I think starts to set set prospects apart from each other when you start to make that jump to junior hockey. Um, so again, his abilities were on full display last night, and the goal scorer's touch and ability to find the back of the net. So let's see who else here. I'll wrap up with the goalies. There were two in particular I wanted to talk about, one from each team, ironically. But Joe Bettles out of CC, I believe he's going to be a first year kid for them. I don't recall him being on the roster last year, but uh, his numbers in MDHL league play are pretty spectacular. I've mentioned it before how that league doesn't serve goalies very well. High scoring league, a lot of shots on goal. Your goalies sometimes are only playing a period or a period and a half at a time. So it can be just a tricky league for goalies to navigate. And Bettles, I've mentioned it before, I think had a sub 2 goals against average, save percentage north of 91%. I think like his numbers were stellar in league, and I think he pitched a shutout in the period that he played um, in the showcase last night, and he does look a little raw to me, maybe a little bit, not quite as polished or a finished product there in his movements and whatnot, but ultimately keeps the puck out of the net. You can't really complain, right? Like that's the name of the game for goalies. So I think he's got the potential to be a really high end prospect moving forward. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see kind of his growth in net as his high school career kind of really starts here. I think this coming season being his first, so it'll be nice to see him kind of develop and grow. The other one I want to talk about was Jacob Van Sweden, who I mentioned earlier. Listed as a Waterford kid, which I think puts him into the Lakes area co-op. I'm not positive on that, and some of those co-ops I'm very shaky on as far as what schools belong where. So Van Sweden to me, I thought his movements, his footwork, everything was pretty crisp. He was tracking really well, which I like to see. If the puck was in zone, he was alert, attentive, following the play. Sometimes you see goalies who, oh, my defenseman's got it, all right, and they just kind of relax a little bit, and can sometimes be a bit of a detriment because obviously we know how fast the game can change in hockey. So you like to see guys that are dialed in. 24/7 or as close as can be anyways when you're in net like that. Van Sweden to me was that. I mentioned his very fluid, crisp motions, laterally. And then with the game on the line, so to speak, coming down the stretch, pulled the goalie to go 6-on-5. Van Sweden was there to shut the door on a couple opportunities I think that Team Green had. So yeah, that's that. I'll put a bow on that for now. I will. What do I want to do? I'll put something up on the website as well at pdspicks.com. Maybe a little more analysis, a bit of a write up on maybe some other players that I didn't even get to today, but definitely have notes on here, and do a bit of a breakdown, a further breakdown of what I saw at the MDHL showcase. So be on the lookout for that. Still putting out more stuff here around conference previews. And so be sure to everything I got: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at PD's Picks. Go ahead and find me, like, subscribe, as I always say. Very much appreciated. All of that content will be made available there. So be sure to be on the lookout for any and all of that. Next week, I teased a couple more conference previews. We'll get into that. Maybe we'll dive back into players here a little bit, or I think some of these players might even be in a couple of those conference previews we get to next week. So, all right, we'll wrap this up here. This was even more than I thought it was going to be, so it ended up being good. Till next week, skate hard, have fun. I'll see you guys soon.